I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke
back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
Welcome to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. It is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Man, it felt great to say it again. Really, really, really did. I haven't... First things first, I want to apologize for my absence, guys. I haven't been on the podcast as much as I want to. And even before this, I haven't done a podcast since November 14th. I believe it's been, just a little under 4 months. I'm the type of person that, I don't like to share. I like to share about boxing. I don't like to share about personal life because, one, nobody cares about anybody else's problems. But I think that I've put myself in a spot where I owe it to you guys, and it's been asked because I've been getting a lot of DMs that where is the podcast? Where is the podcast, bro? Aren't you going to talk about this? Look at the WBC did that. This fight is blah. This fight is great. This fight is we need to hear your input. And not that I'm fluffing myself up. It's just that these are the type of DMs that I get, and I really, really do appreciate them. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to do this podcast. I haven't had the mental energy, I guess, and as petty as that sounds, that's because I'll be the first one to make fun of you if you're talking about mental something or mental health or whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is that and I want to talk about it. And it's gonna take a minute, so before you guys, just click out of this, just hear me out. I want to come to you guys from the heart. On November 17th, my dad died. My father passed away. He had a heart attack. He was the guy that controlled. Not controlled. It sounds weird, but he was the head of the household. Even if we were out of the household, he was the guy that I went for advice. The guy that I went for jokes. The guy that introduced me to boxing. He was my heart. He was my everything. He was my mother's everything, and unfortunately he died. It was a quick, what I would like to say, a quick death. He had a sudden heart attack, and I was with him on the 16th, which was for my sister's birthday, and on the 17th he passed away. A lot of people say, "Lo cabrón lo saqué de mi papá." That's me. This man taught me everything that I possibly know, whether it's life lessons, whether it's boxing, whether it's with a funny joke, a storytelling. That's where I got it from. That's who taught me. That's who taught me how to be an asshole, how to be sarcastic, how to be a family man, how to care for folks, and how to take my shirt off and give it to the next man if he needs it. That's who I got it from. As you guys know, I didn't come from the best neighborhoods. I tell everybody I grew up in Compton, California. It was very easy for me to route the other way. But if it wasn't for the ass whoopings that my father gave me, the pep talk that my mom gave me after my dad whooped my ass, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And not that I'm, this big successful person, but I wouldn't be where I'm at because of him. November 17th, he passed away. I didn't really put it out there. I did, put it out on my Instagram story because I didn't want to do a post. I didn't really want to see people's writing or people to see condolences, and I don't like that shit. I don't like posting shit on the internet for pity. And again, I shouldn't talk like that because I've seen a lot of folks do it, but that's not me. I just wanted I posted it because I get a lot of messages and whatnot. I wanted my time to be respected with my family because as his only boy, I wanted to be there for my mom, my sisters, my family, the people that came in and out, and whatnot. So I just wanted people to back off. People did, but for those that actually checked in, for the flowers that I received from folks that I would never expect it to, I had some of the biggest trolls that know me, that knew about my father's passing, reach out to me, send flowers to my dad, some friends from, whether it's from work, whether it was from boxing, people that just reached out and say, not so much for me, because I think as the man of the house now, I'm just supposed to eat it. But for my mom, my sisters, I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. Again, I see and I remember everybody that checked in. I might not have responded to everybody's messages, but I saw them. I also saw who didn't. But again, let's not dwell on the negative. That's not. That's not what this is about. We did get to take my dad's just to visit my dad's remains to Mexico. So I did do that right after my dad. Like I said, he died on the 17th. On Black Friday, we had his funeral arrangements here in the U.S. I think it was like the first day or the first week of December. We took off to Mexico to have a mass service out there. We know we did what we could for him out there. One of the interesting things from Mexico, I did get to step on, because my dad was already retired. He lived his life and he was chilling at this point. Most of you guys knew him, or people that knew him. He had a restaurant where he retired and sold it a few years ago, and now he was all about going to Mexico, taking stuff, building his home now within the last 5 years, and retiring over there. He got to live his best possible life in Mexico, and we felt it was right to take him back. Again, I wanted to go see, because I've always been I'm always busy. You guys already know that I'm always doing something, whether it's my regular 9 to 5, whether it's something with Adidas, whether it's something with the podcast, whether it's taking time to troll and sit back and go on Twitter and do a couple of memes, something. But I'm always busy doing something. But I've always felt like I never took the time to go visit my dad's hometown just for the last maybe 20 years, and I actually did that. I got to go to Mexico. I got to see his crops, his house, all the stuff that he would come back and tell me that he was doing for when we went over there, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was one of those things that, if you guys have family in Mexico, or even if you don't visit Mexico, you'll be, the tranquility that you find in Mexico. It's really beautiful. Nothing that compares to going to Mexico, going to have just some freaking tacos in the corner. I'm going to eat some enchiladas from the lady next door. Just sitting there, hearing the grillos or the crickets chirp. It's an unbelievable place, and I can't wait to go back. But anyways, before I get all sentimental, let's move forward, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I did want to share that with you, because as a lot of you guys that are fans of the podcast, that are friends of mine, because I don't have fans, I have friends, acquaintances even. I think you guys were owed the explanation of why I haven't been around. There's a couple other things, but we'll leave that for the following podcast. But yeah, I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to share, my experience in Mexico, which is beautiful, which is great. Now we're back, and I think I've been taking baby steps, whether it's with work, whether it's with, interacting on social media, whether it's anything, baby steps to get back to normal. It's never going to be okay, but we do have to move forward, because that's the way my dad would have wanted to, and if he would have seen me getting freaking teary-eyed right now, he would probably not hug me, he would probably fucking make fun of me for crying like a little bitch. But anyways, let's move forward. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fights that happened. Let's talk about the last couple of weeks. We're not going to go back 4 months into it, because, come on, who the fuck has that type of time? But I do want to talk about little things that I saw in Mexico. And it reminds me a lot of these fighters. There's two type of people in Mexico. That Mexican that wants to work hard, provides for his family, and leave a good name for his family behind him. And then there's that other type of Mexican, the cartel guy, the police officer, the politician, the guy that's looking to take advantage of the next guy. The police officers, if you guys don't know, in Mexico, most of the time they'll stop you. They see you with a nice car. They'll stop you and say, you know what, what's up, you know, ¿qué onda con la mordida? Which means, you know, let me, or para el café, they call it, you know, what's up with the coffee. So they're just trying to get money off of you. The cartels, of course, you know, we know that they're notorious for extortion when it comes to families out there, you know, taking over towns and whatnot. And it reminded me of a lot of these last 2 weekends of boxing. And the reason why I actually say that is because we saw Valdez and Berchelt give us a great fight. We saw them not only give us a great fight, but we've been watching, I think most Southern California, more a lot of the Mexican-American fan base or just regular fan base that's been watching ESPN and Top Rank Fights for a while. We saw Oscar Valdez grow on us. We saw him develop. We saw his flaws. We saw him give everything of him in that ring. Whether it was fighting a Mariaga or fighting Quigg, you know, with a broken jaw, or trying to reinvent himself with a new trainer. But we saw him do so much great things. And not because he's a super athlete or he has the best promoter or he has the huge fan base, but because he exemplifies that Mexican person that goes to fucking work, the Mexican person that we've all been known for. And he just busts his ass off. Now we saw Valdez. You know, again, we saw him versus Quigg, and as a matter of fact, that's when I started this podcast. I started talking about the nutsack on this kid, Valdez. And it's funny because that's where I'm coming back to do this podcast. But my thing is, we saw him try to develop into something that we were not all sure that he could possibly do. We saw him try to do things, think in the ring. And that's something that Valdez was very good at as an amateur, but as a professional, I think with the trainer he had, it was balls to the wall. Let's go and get this son of a bitch out of here and let's move forward. I think, and this is a marriage that I wasn't, you know, in agreement with a lot when it came to him and Canelo trainer, Eddie Reynoso. But it somehow made sense. You know, who better to fight a Mexican or to be able to figure out a Mexican fighter than a Mexican trainer, and that's what they did versus Valdez. Look, I think we've all said it that pre-Valdez, I think a lot of us had said I had picked Valdez winning because I saw what Canelo could do to a basic 1-2 fighter like Perro. You know, for example, I thought this fight versus Berchelt was just like Canelo's fight versus Perro, very basic fight. Where the kid's going to come in and he's going to catch him coming in. That's exactly what it's going to happen. Or maybe in Kirkland. Same type of fight. And that's exactly the type of fight that Oscar fought versus Berchelt. And he saw everything coming in. He saw everything in slow motion. Yes, he might have been the bigger guy, Berchelt in this case. But Oscar was able to read every single thing that he was going to throw. And he came about a Mexican hero. He became this was when I liked the WBC. When you grab a guy, you go and fucking take his belt, or you retain it, or you take it. In this case, you take a guy's belt that's supposed to be the man. So now you become the man. This is when the WBC belt means something. This is what the WBC should actually look at. This is the type of belt we have. This is the type of belt. This is the type of fights that we want to see. This is when your belt is worth something. Now, on the other hand, to talk about the other type of Mexicans that I had just mentioned earlier, the cartel guys, the cops, the politicians, the ones that wants their cut. and do not want to work for it. Reminds me a lot of what Canelo is. The type of Mexican Canelo is. Canelo dumped the WBC belt at one point because, he felt a little pressure that they wanted him to fight Golovkin. Canelo didn't like that. Canelo, again, at that point, dumped all his, or at least his WBC belt, and said, I'm going to do my things my way, and he eventually did. He eventually fought Golovkin. He eventually beat Golovkin, quote unquote. But what intrigues me about Canelo is that, yes, he goes up and jumps in weight, but he doesn't jump in weight necessarily to beat a better fighter. He just jumps in weight to beat a wounded fighter. I'll give you an example. If he didn't want to fight at 160 and he, for some reason, thought that the weight cut was too much, I don't know how, if he's a 154-pounder. But anyway, you go to 168. 168, they have plenty of guys. There's Platt there. There's Benavidez. There's legit fighters there. No, why? Why would he do that? He goes and fights Fielding. Then he goes and fights the little brother of a guy that he already beat, Liam Smith. And he does what he wants with him. He just toys with him. We know he could toy with him. It's sort of like, this reminds me of the era of Pacquiao when he would beat the shit out of everybody, but every time he would circle back to Marquez, Marquez would beat the shit out of him, regardless of how great people thought that Pacquiao was, which he was, but again, different story. So he goes and does that, and then he goes up and he said, you know what, it's getting kind of tough at 168. So, oh, look, there's a wounded fucking dog in Sergey Kovalev. Let's go to 175. We don't have to cut weight. The guy is just, he's about to fight, so he's gonna have. And he went through a grueling fight, so they go after him. They fight him. And they get to claim a 175-pound belt. Again, manipulating history. And now, while all this is going on, Jose Benavidez pops dirty for cocaine. So what's the first thing they do? Snatch his belt. They snatch his belt because the guy, wanted to party a little bit. I'm not condoning cocaine, but I'm just saying it's not going to help him win his belt. It's not going to help him. It's not going to help him on fight night. At least not cocaine. Maybe he does it in between rounds, but again, that's a different story. So what does Canelo do? He finds out that somehow, some way, the WBC has this Soropopinski guy, Virin Yildirim, whatever his name is, and they have him as a mandatory. And again, this is a fighter that Canelo has used as a sparring partner just because he's a big bulto, big sack of potatoes. He's not a good fighter. He's a fucking robot. You guys saw him on Saturday. He's not great. But Canelo begged for the fight. He went to the WBC, and again, you gotta understand how influential Canelo is. I'm sure that the WBC could have figured something out where they would have taken Benavidez' belt and somehow made him fight for it again, or put him in the rankings where he would have to fight for the belt in one or two fights. No! That's not what he did. What Eddie Reynoso and Canelo did. They went and begged for this fight to happen. Let's fight Yildirim. The kid hasn't fought in over 2 years. Let's fight him. Let's let a guy that's arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter fight a Turkish dude that again has no idea what he's doing in the ring versus a guy like that. I'm sure Canelo, when he brought him in as a sparring partner, brought him in for a sparring partner for a day or two, he's a very predictable guy. You saw he had a 1-2. He never even landed on Canelo the whole fight. I think he landed like 2 punches. This is fucking embarrassing. And this is what Canelo just did to you guys. And again, I'm not telling you to not be a fan of Canelo. I think Canelo is a great guy. I think Canelo is a hell of a fighter. I think he has the abilities to to be one of Mexico's greats, not greatest, but one of Mexico's greats, but not at this cost, man. I feel almost embarrassed that people are okay with this shit. That's the great thing about having social media now, that we could share our opinions, but not only share our opinions, learn from other people's opinions, learn from other people's tweets or posts or stories out there. We don't just have to make our opinion based on an article written on a paper. We don't have to do that anymore. We get to form our own opinions. What you guys saw this Saturday was not a championship level fight. This was worse than the YouTubers' fights. And then we wonder why these YouTubers are doing great. Honestly, I'd rather watch it. I was so against these YouTubers. If you were to ask me about the YouTubers a year ago, I was so against them. Now I'm so pro. Why? Because they're a form of entertainment. They're sort of like the WWE, where you know it's fake, but you know what? This shit is kind of fun. And it's sad that boxing can't be that way sometimes. It's really sad. Last week, when Berchelt and Oscar Valdez went to fucking war, and Valdez slapped the shit out of Berchelt from the round one, I was like a kid in a fucking candy house. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought, anytime there's two Mexicans that go to war, it's a beautiful thing. Oscar did box him more, but that was his strategy. He was a smaller guy. He needed a box. He couldn't get this big fucker off. He couldn't stand there and bang with this big fucker. He was just too goddamn big. But he did what he had to do. And I thought it was that's when you appreciate being a boxing fan. Again, and Canelo. There's only been like 2 times where I appreciated, maybe 3 when I appreciated Canelo as a boxing fan. That was when the GGG fights. They're both great. That was when he fought Perro Angulo. And honestly, that's pretty much it. Everything's pretty, when he fought Floyd, I mean, I think we all know he was a baby. He didn't need to be in the ring with that man. It was just an ass whooping. But how great has that fight matured? But anyways, that's what's been happening in boxing. That's my take. Again, remember, guys, I'm not here to tell you and break down each and every one of these fights. I'm here to somehow give you my opinion on a relevant fight. Another thing that I did see, and I don't think I've had the opportunity to comment on it, was the whole Canelo leaving Golden Boy. And I get it. I'm not, again, one thing I've learned is to not go to bat for any promoter, because at the end of the day, those fuckers are in the same fucking yacht together, hanging out, while you're over here arguing for a promoter or whatnot. My thing is that just the way shit happened. There was a big problem with the Golden Boy getting fights for Canelo, because somehow, in some way, these guys were outpricing themselves when it came to negotiating. Whether it was and most of the guys that were available were from Eddie Hearn. That those are his punching bags. Excuse me. But somehow those fights were never able to get materialized. All of a sudden, he starts. Eddie Hearn starts working with Canelo, and these fights are being made. Is it that Eddie Hearn's a great promoter, or somehow these fighters are actually taking the fight for even lesser the amount that they were originally offered? The Billy Joe Saunders fight is now done. The Yildirim fight was done. The Caleb, not the Caleb, but not Liam Smith, but Liam Smith's brother, whatever the fuck his name is, the other fucking robot. All those fights are done. How are these fights done so easily, but with Golden Boy they weren't? In my opinion, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. There was some dirty stuff going on. I think Eddie Hearn was out to fuck Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. But what the fuck do I know, right? I'm the boxing guru. Let's talk about our upcoming fights, guys. Upcoming fights. Again, we don't have anything this week. Nothing good. I think Clarissa Shields fighting, but fuck you if you're watching that. On March 13th from Dallas, Texas, on the Zone, Chocolatito fights Gallo Estrada. Chocolatito again fights Gallo Estrada. This fight originated, I can't remember what year, but it was a fucking war. They were both young. They were both young pups. I believe Chocolatito did win the first fight. Again, don't quote me, but I believe he did. I remember it was a great fight. And that's when I kind of fell in love with these little guys. Years later, here we have it again. These are the type of fights, again, sort of like the Oscar Valdez and Berchelt that I will promote the shit out of. I like it. I don't care who's going to win. I just care the type of action that they're going to give us. These type of fights are the type of fights that you talk to your kids about. These are the fights that you actually want to invite people and have that carne asada to. Not too many, because remember, we still got to be COVID friendly, wear your fucking mask and whatnot. But these are and actually, what is it for the WBC is in there? I don't know what other WBA I believe is in there as well. So this is a legit fight. I think there's a three. They're trying to call it as a 3 championship fight. 3 championship fights on the card, because I believe Cecilia Brækhus is trying to get her belts back from McCaskill. Fight that was, I don't know. You guys watch that fight. That's what I'll be doing my micheladas. But one fight that's a sleeper in that fight, and I think is bound to make the biggest noise. And again, I'll tell you guys this because I've seen this kid spar, I've seen this kid fight, I've seen him train at a Compton boxing gym. It's Axel Aragon. They call him El Mini. This motherfucker might be smaller than a jockey, but boy, can he fucking crack. I seen him bring down some bigger dudes. Again, I think his minimum weight, if I'm not mistaken. Try to watch that. Remember, Axel Aragon El Mini, that's what they call him. He fights, I believe, a Japanese guy, Hiroto Kyoguchi. Check it out. I think it's a co-main event. If not, it's before the girl WBC, WBO, WBA, IB, blah fight. These are the type of fights that I will always encourage you to watch. I want to see putazos. I want to see madrazos. I want to see great fights. I don't want to see just cute interviews at the end of each fight, like we had with Broner. We saw Broner. What did we see Broner in a couple of weeks? Land no punches and still went around. Again, this is what it's come down to. We're handicapping Broner, but again, that's a whole nother podcast. Guys, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Sorry about the earlier rant. I feel like I had to. You guys deserve it. I know a lot of you guys, and I don't talk about these type of things. Most of the time I'm actually joking. But I think I had to tell you guys why I hadn't done the podcast in such a long time. Guys, again, thank you so much for listening. This has been the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you. And se la lavan. Bye-bye.
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You
My
broke
back is broken.
what? A vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
Ese estilo es un falso de porque el